There we go. All right. Hello, everyone. This is Dennis Stay with Getting Your Edge, How to Right Size Your Home Life podcast. I've got a great show for you. I have a friend of mine who I've known since I think eighth grade, maybe seventh grade, and they have taken a trip around the US many times. And they're here to discuss their van life and their experiences there, tell you some good things about the van life, the RV life. Okay. And I'm also here with Judy Gratton. Hello, Judy.
Hello.
Hello. You're looking great. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
And here's my friends from a long time, Don and Gay Taylor. Say hi, Don and Gay Taylor.
Hello.
Hello. Okay. I'm really excited because Don was my best man at my wedding, and we've been friends forever. We've managed to stay friends since like 13. That's pretty amazing. And these two folks had an experience of a lifetime driving around the US and Canada in their van. They had sold their home. So we're going to talk about that. Before we do that, I want to mention that the Edge Group team is the premier downsizing real estate team. You can know from 53 podcast episodes, we know how to do downsizing. If you're ready to downsize, give us a call or go to edgegroupteam.com and let us know. We say less house, more home, and discover downsizing with us. That's it for the promo. Let's get going. Don and Gay Taylor, tell us about your experience of switching from a home in West Seattle to a van life.
In 2000, I'd been in front of a computer for a minimum of 40 hours a week for 33 years, writing software, developing software systems. It was a good job. It paid decently. We had a nice life, our family, and I was absolutely sick of it by the time 33 years had passed and I was still at it. I asked for 3 months off. And my boss looked at me and said, "Oh, we couldn't possibly let you leave for 3 months." And so I went home and wrote a resignation letter and I quit. I had talked with Gay, my wife, earlier about how much I was sick of my job. And she said, "Why don't you quit?" And I said, "We have a mortgage." She said, "We'll sell the house." So all of that played into my resignation letter. I submitted that and we set off to sell our house, emptied it out, hired a realtor in May of 2000. We had a small 19 and a half foot camping van, a road trek that we had used on numerous trips and enjoyed quite a bit. And so we decided that we would drive around the country and go visit friends and family and see new sites. And so that's what we did. We put all of our stuff in storage that we knew we wouldn't be able to replace without me going back to work. And I really didn't want to go back to work. And so we sold and gave away a lot of stuff and got a 10 by 12 storage space and stuffed everything else we had into that. We hit the road in September, closed on our house sometime in late October from Vermont, kept going for 7 more years until COVID put the kibosh on convenient travel through van. Everything closed. And the things that you need, no matter what, are a place to take a shower for us, a place to dump the van, and occasionally a place to stay and plug in. And all of those became unavailable and everything shut down.
Oh,
We parked ourselves in Denver
wow.
at her brother's house, much to his joy.
Gay, were you working at that time? What were you doing when he came up with wanting to quit his job and do this great thing? How did you feel about that? What was going on in your world?
I was laying out by the pool eating bonbons. What was I doing, Don?
Taking care of animals, taking care of the house, taking care of everything except going to work for 40 hours a week.
That's a lot, but still.
I found out much more than 40 hours of work a
Yes,
week.
I can vouch for that one. But to go, you had to clear out the house. You had to, what was the financial and the emotional effects of doing all this, getting ready to go?
It was, after we got going, it was joyful. I had spent a year writing down everything we spent, what we spent it on, trying to figure out what's our bottom line. And let's see, what else did I do? Oh, I went through room by room. I started with the spare room. I took a bag and I got two of these. I don't need this. I don't need this. And then it got easier and easier to throw things in the bag. And we had the Goodwill box and the Save box. And saved way too much Christmas stuff. But
Oh, yeah. I don't
I
want to
can't
talk
give up that.
Yeah,
But it was fun.
Uh-huh. Wow, that's good to know. I know a lot of people, it's really hard to let go of things.
For me too, but I talked to this lady who used to sell herself as the declutterer at church. So I invited her to my house to see if she could kickstart me. And I'll tell you, by the second bookshelf, I was like, I think I got it. I think I was really letting go. So
Good. That's
I haven't missed any of it. I don't even remember what I gave away. That was okay.
I didn't do as well. We stored a lot of artwork, a lot of books, a lot of tools, very little furniture, a few things that I knew we couldn't replace, but a lot of it was not necessary. I should have followed Gay's lead and gotten rid of more stuff. We wouldn't have had those things to move, which we moved twice. When COVID hit, we moved in with my brother-in-law, and I thought, let's quit paying on storage. And we moved all of that stuff to
Oh my
Colorado
goodness.
and stored it in
Ourselves.
a crawl space in his basement. And then when we got tired of sharing his space when he was working from home and it got to feel a little uncomfortable, we moved it all right back up to Seattle when we found a place to live. So,
But we didn't know we were coming back to Seattle. We thought we were looking for our forever spot out there,
In
and
Colorado?
anywhere.
Colorado's pretty central, so it could have been anywhere.
Oh, okay.
So your West Seattle home was 1,700, 1,800 square feet,
1,800 square feet.
and then you went down to
We're in a 900 square foot home now.
in your van. You went from
92
92 square feet in the van.
square feet. Yeah, there's an aisleway between the bed and the driver and passenger seats with a third seat on the side. And then all the rest is either cabinet or countertop with sink and cook space or toilet. Yeah, not much room.
Smaller than a beach towel size flooring.
Wow, wow. You guys
But-
have to like each other a lot.
People told us when we started off, the neighbors were like, I give you 2 weeks. You'll be back. You'll be sorry you sold your house. Nope.
Yeah, never reached that point.
And people ask, did you fight a lot in the RV? And it's no more than when we were in the house. No more and no less.
So it's just the two of you then in your RV going down the road?
And a German Shepherd and 2 pugs. We had to rehome our cat. I refused to have a cat box in the same space I lived in. And
Uh-huh.
so we had to rehome our cat. That was a heartbreaker. But we had our 3 dogs when we started out. They're all gone by now. But there
Oh,
was,
they've gone by now. Okay.
yeah. But a long time, over 10 years.
That's true. Huh. 3 dogs and you. What were some of the other challenges that you encountered living in an RV?
What? Yeah. When we initially moved in, you just have to get used to the space, and we weren't used to it. There were a lot of bumps and bruises and scrapes from knocking our heads and shins into things. That took a while to get used to. Fortunately, the design of the thing we had a decent amount of storage space, and so we quickly established exactly how we could stuff everything in there. We needed year-round clothing, we needed winter clothes and summer clothes, and
Clothes and skiing clothes.
yeah, all
It
the,
all.
My goodness.
all the usual. What's that?
What was
I
that?
said you brought it all then, your wardrobe for all seasons.
Yeah, one thing we didn't have was any kind of formal, where we got invited to a wedding and I had to go buy some clothes to wear to the wedding because t-shirts and jeans wouldn't cut it.
I love the Goodwill. It's great for stuff like that.
Yeah.
Huh. Wow.
Yeah.
Now, did you guys set out?
So
with,
then,
sorry, go ahead, Don.
oh, it's all right. Go ahead with your question.
Did you want to explain more about transitioning or?
We set up a mail forwarding service. That was one key thing. We needed to keep getting mail, and there was a local mail forwarding service in West Seattle, just a couple blocks from our house. So we set up a contract with them, and then we had to get used to getting the mail delivered. We weren't sure how that would really work out. So our first mail delivery was to a tiny little post office in Maine. We went out to Acadia National Park and had general delivery done, and it worked like a charm. One recommendation, don't ever have general delivery across the border. We did it once in Canada, and it took 13 days.
Oh
So
my.
don't do that, but it's great for the US. It'll usually 2 to 4 days, no problem.
So did you have to wait the 13 days? Did you wait for your mail or did it just go on to somewhere else?
No, it made it, and we waited. And
But we were in Alaska. Was the weird? No, we weren't.
we were in Whitehorse, British Columbia. They have a training center there with an Olympic-sized pool and lots of beautiful places. We didn't have a problem hanging out there. And so that's where we stayed for that whole time. But anyway, so the mail forwarding was something. What else we had to set up? Nothing in particular. We didn't use there's a shower in our RV, but it's set up so that you basically run a shower curtain around right in the middle of the van, and we never used it. Using all of the water supply to take a shower seemed like a foolish approach for being able to stay in the van. So we looked for public pools. That was a part of our travel plan. We looked for public pools or occasionally staying at RV parks. We got a Passport America discount pass, paid half price. And so there are a few things that you have to pay attention to get away with it without having to go back to home base, which we didn't have.
Now, you had mentioned dumping the van, and I'm like, maybe we need to clarify.
It's a house on wheels, including the sewage system, the freshwater supply system, and all that. Our particular model has a 10-gallon black, we call it a black water tank, which is where the toilet goes. And you don't want that to overflow. I can guarantee you that. That's a bad idea. And so you have to make a point of tracking down a place to empty it. And ours lasts about 10 days. And so every 10 days, we would find a place in driving distance, or less than 10 days. We plot it out, whether it is a RV campground or some other public campground with a dump site. There were places in the middle of nowhere in Wyoming that had to support the local camping community, hunting community, that had public dumps. You pay $5 and you empty the van. And that's probably the most unpleasant process of living in a van, is having to do that process. Our setup is so small, it only takes 5 minutes. It's not really a very big deal. It's just very pleasant.
It's only a big deal if you screw up.
Take your
But
foot
you know
off the
this
pipe.
how?
I wrote it up in the blog because it was pretty darn funny. We were trying to rinse the tank. We hadn't ever done that. It was a used RV. And so we thought, let's rinse this thing. So I had Gay man the little wand that sprays to put down into the toilet to spray it out. And I was outside making sure the drain was hooked up to the dump site. And then she didn't realize that the thing spun around, and so she got splashed in the face. It was brand new, so it wasn't fouled yet.
It was clean water, but Don was mad at me.
And she was pretty mad at me too. And so then we switched places. I said, fine, I'll work the wand. You come out here. And I said, here's the outflow pipe. It's pointing into the hole in the ground to dump the thing. Whatever you do, keep your foot on this thing so that it doesn't move. And apparently I said it too fast or didn't say it.
Then he said, and pull this knob.
And pull this lever to.
I took my foot off it to get to the knob.
Yeah.
And then I was flipping and sliding.
Yeah.
Oh.
And there might have been some swear words involved. So at any rate, it was ugly a little bit. And thankfully for Gay, she never had to do it again. So there you go.
Yep.
It became my sole duty. So anyway, so there's that. And yeah.
What about laundry and things like that? What do you do with your clothes?
We have a big old laundry bag that slowly got filled. And when we got either convenient to a laundromat or we get down too far on clothes, we'd seek one out and just use a public laundromat to clean everything up. We'd spend a couple of hours there every, several weeks, 2 or 3 weeks.
We met so many wonderful people at those laundromats. So many stories.
Yeah, so that was another thing that you're dependent on. You need to look up and plan on taking care of.
Now, did you sit down before you did this and plan all these things out? You mentioned the mail, which I would never have thought of. I'm sure I would drive off and never get mail again. And the laundry. I know I've seen in Washington state that some of the rest areas do have places to dump the dark water out of RVs. Did you find that all over the country or no?
Not exactly. There are some states that do have those. There's a public org, rvdump.net or something like that I would use. And it finds you on the map, and then it shows various places that you can go to and whether they cost money. And so I use that extensively to find places. I went to the water treatment plant in Augusta, Maine.
Where do you get water?
So that was the other thing. We've gotten water from places, people's houses we've stayed at. We have gotten them from RV parks. We have gotten water from one convenience store in one town where we were staying. I went, they had an outside faucet, and I went and asked if we could get some water, and help yourself. Water is generally available everywhere. Water is not as welcome. It's unchlorinated, and so that's less welcome to put into the RV. And we cleaned out the freshwater tank, put a little bit of bleach in it, and flushed it once during the trip.
But we didn't drink that water.
Yeah, we didn't have any issues with fresh water. You just have to watch your amounts. The tank on our van was, I think, 35 gallons, which is about 15 gallons too much. We would have to dump before we run out of fresh water. So all you're doing is hauling extra weight. So we would generally fill the freshwater tank about half full, and that would last for as long as it would take to get to a dump site. And almost all dump sites have a freshwater, potable water source.
Did you not want to leave it in the tank because it would get old and maybe make you sick?
No, we were living in the van, so there was no chance of that. We cycled through the fresh water consistently.
Now, did you guys go in and right at the time you sold your house or near it, did you sit down and plan your route?
No, we're not much on planning, apparently. And so Gay's brother and his wife were staying at a fancy resort on Cape Cod across the country about the time that we were.
They called and told us that they were going out to Cape Cod and they had this really nice place. And we were like, all right, let's.
We invited ourselves.
And we got there right after they got the room.
Yeah. So we went there, and our main driving force was the climate. If we didn't want to have to deal with freezing climate, our RV is not set up to cope with that stuff. The lines and tanks are underneath on the outside of the vehicle, so we did not want to have to deal with freezing lines, replacing lines embedded through the van and all that stuff. So we followed the weather north when it got hot and south when it got cold, and so that was the general pattern. But in between, there's lots of places to go and lots of people to see. Our initial thing, Gay called it our Christmas card tour, because my wife has kindly sent out 100 cards a year at Christmas time to friends and family and people we haven't seen in decades. We would show up in their town and call them up and ask them if they would like to get together for dinner. And so we got to visit with all kinds of people we hadn't seen in ages. It was really fun.
Did you hit all the states? You said you went to Canada.
Yeah, we hit all the states. We didn't spend any time exploring Kentucky just by chance. We didn't stop, make a point of going into Kentucky. We'd hoped to go to Louisville, but we never did that. We passed through Kentucky and we went through West Virginia. We went through all the states, including up to Alaska, drove all the way up to Alaska, spent almost a month in Alaska. And we'd like to go back because we missed some of the biggest national parks there, and made it up into Canada, toured all the way around Nova Scotia, went to Newfoundland, Labrador. Did not visit much in Eastern Canada except Toronto. We've driven across Canada trying to get to family reunions in Michigan, where he is from.
So what are some of the highlights then?
We really enjoyed the trip up to Alaska. That was quite spectacular. Just, you can't really drive anywhere without just spectacular views and sights. We got up to Denali, and we're one of the lucky people in 40% of visitors who actually get to see the mountain because it's not covered in clouds. It was beautiful when we were there.
Tell them how we did it, though.
So one thing, if you do travel with animals, you have to be careful about heat. If you want to leave them alone in the van, you've got to be able to keep them cool or open the doors or take them outside or give them whatever they need. So in Denali, we camped in Denali, and the temperatures were quite hot. It was the springtime, but it was already getting pretty hot. So we had to split up. There's a 4-hour bus ride to the interior lodge at Denali. So I went one day, and then the next day, Gay went, and I stayed with dogs. So if you have animals, you have to be cognizant of that. National parks don't allow animals out on any of the trails. The national forests are great. Wilderness areas, same deal.
Not even on a leash?
Yeah, you can take them on a leash
in the parking lot.
Doesn't really play out well if it's hot with a pavement and all that. So there is a drawback to having your animals along in that regard. But Alaska was fantastic. We really enjoyed going up to New Brunswick. We traveled all the way around Nova Scotia. Got to see Alexander Graham Bell Museum up there, Grossmorn, some spectacular national parks. We lucked out. We happened to show up on Canada's, I think it was 100 and some anniversary of the country, so they opened up all of their national park sites for free. And museums, so we got to tour those for free. And then we ferries to Newfoundland, and from Newfoundland we went to Labrador and spent more than a few days up there because we got by a broken brake line. We were there for 15 days because we had to wait for a part, which couldn't make it because there's two ways in, by air or by ferry, and the air, it was so bad weather they couldn't fly by instrument.
You couldn't see, it was so foggy you couldn't see your hand in front of your face.
So we were stuck parked behind a car repair place, but they thankfully let us plug our van in, so we had electricity and we were snug. It was fine. It was just like anywhere else where you have electricity, you can do pretty much whatever you can get away with. We carried probably 100 DVDs with movies and a few books, so we watched movies at night. Anyway, yeah.
When we were in behind that automobile place waiting to be towed, we were towed there. But when I got out of the car, the first street I see is Sesame Street. I was like,
oh, that does not sound like Sesame Street.
Yeah.
Car repair place.
We did haul our bikes along, and so we got to ride our bikes in some spectacular places on some great trails. Acadia National Park was gifted by who?
Somebody famous.
Carney, I don't know who it was. And so there are carriage trails all over the park that are just absolutely beautiful for biking. And we were there in the fall, so that was particularly spectacular. There's a trail down that leads to Miami from Homestead, Florida. They've turned a train route into a bus route with bike lanes, so there's no cars, and you can go for miles. And we took that several times. That was really nice. So having some bikes was a great thing. We made runs to grocery stores and stuff like that on our bikes pretty frequently.
So you do cooking in your RV?
Yeah, there's a little 2-burner stove, and originally there was a microwave. I pulled that out and replaced it with a toaster oven because we don't microwave, but we do like toast. And did pretty much all of our cooking. We stopped to eat out maybe a couple times a month. So that was good.
So did you guys set a budget per month, or what'd you do?
Couldn't go over 4,000 a month.
Okay.
That was
Was that easy to make, or did you have?
There were some months we went really high. If the car broke down, the van broke down.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Or the dog got sick, but we'd make up the next month and only spend 2,000.
Yeah, we did stay with relatives and friends, and that lowered our budget. We weren't burning gas. The gas when we left Seattle was over $4 a gallon in 2014. It was the most expensive gas we ran into until we got to the last gas station before the Arctic Circle in Alaska. And that was over $5 a gallon. But the price went down as we went south and east. I don't quite understand how that all works, but it was pretty cheap back then. I'm guessing it would probably be 3 times the amount of gas budget now.
How many gallons of gas did your RV hold?
32 gallons, and it got about 15 miles to the gallon all the time.
Okay. Wow.
So not a big one. When we were considering this, we looked at, somebody suggested, oh, there's guys selling a bus-based RV, and it was a beautiful big old bus, all outfitted and painted really nice. He opened up the back end to show us the engine, a diesel Cummins something or other. The thing took up the whole back end of the bus. And I asked him about gas mileage. He says, oh, it gets about 6 miles to the gallon going up a mountain or down a mountain. So we realized that was not quite what we had in mind because we did want to travel. The gas budget wasn't too bad.
That's good.
Yeah, repairs caught us. So the van is older, and so we had to have the front end on that. We've gone through 2 of these, the same model, different years. The first one, we had the front end rebuilt twice, and the follow-on van that was 5-6 years newer, we've had the front end rebuilt twice, and those are expensive repairs. We fortunately had people's friends' homes to stay at on some of those, and some of the repair times, we slept in the van parked in the dealer parking lot while the repairs were being made. That's another thing that we saved a little bit of money on by dodging hotel rooms.
So what are your best memories, would you say, over this? How many years did you actually do this?
7 years, 2014 to 2020, about right. Best memories? Traveling through northeastern Canada was it was so much fun. The people They had a little bit of an accent. They were all super friendly. The culture just felt different, and that was pretty cool. They enjoyed that a lot.
We went to a Viking village up there, and it was really cold and the wind was blowing so hard. And I bought this coat for $35, and it was the best coat ever. It saved me. And it was, where was it? At the Viking place. It was, we'd walk out there and
It was a site that the Vikings had landed 1,000 years before
Oh.
Columbus came to the United States, and they rebuilt a village using the technique that they are discovered 6 foot thick walls, peat moss walls, and they had guides, people that worked for the parks that were inside, dressed up in the original garb, and it was freezing cold out. You walk through their little tiny door, and it's just absolutely snug, warm
Wow.
inside. And it was interesting, just a lot of interesting things to see. So we did enjoy, we also went down through the Freedom Trail area to Alabama, Selma, lucked out our timing. We arrived in Selma, thought we'd check and see what was on at the movies. Movie Selma had just come out, and they were having an opening showing by invitation only. Since the movie was filmed in Selma, the filmmakers paid for free showings for a couple of weeks to the locals, and the locals were really generous and really nice. They got us a couple of tickets, so we got to go see that movie in Selma,
Wow.
along with some of the people that had survived the 50-mile march. It was
Wow.
fascinating, really.
That
So,
sounds
yeah, a lot of beautiful places, a lot of nice parks and places we didn't really expect them. Interesting places. Went to Hot Springs, Arkansas, the smallest national park, which is about 3 blocks long. Spas, more or less, health spas and that sort of thing. Wandered around there. Acadia was absolutely beautiful.
we spent a month in Utah, went up to a place called Hanksville.
Utah's
You go up on this plateau, and oh man, the wind blew up there. It was a lot of fun up there. I could have stayed up there longer.
We bought a rock hounding book at a local shop in Moab, Utah.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, let's check out these rock hounding sites. And so we traveled all over the state looking for rocks, and we found a lot of really cool rocks. Gay had befriended her church who loved rocks. And so we took off on the trip, and she was shipping rocks back to this boy. His parents finally asked us, stop sending rocks. His whole closet is filled with rocks. And so we stopped.
You know those boxes you get at the post office, and it can weigh as much as you want it to weigh.
Yeah.
I'd load that up with rocks, and he wouldn't give up one rock. I'm like, throw them in the alley.
So during COVID, you guys had to park yourselves in Denver?
Yeah, at our gay's brother's home. And so we tried to help out there, did projects around the house, and ended up investing some of the money we'd stored with him so that we could help him out. We had a place to stay, and he ended up paying us back for that when we wanted to buy a house. But we were there for 2 years, and then we came back up this way and started looking.
Can you explain why COVID, what happened that made you stop traveling?
The RV parks all shut their doors. They weren't allowed to stay open. That meant we had no place to stop to either dump or do laundry,
Yeah.
take showers. So that made that part of it much more difficult. The pools all shut down, all the public pools. So we had no place to take showers, and everything was closed. We couldn't really stop to see anything.
Was it hard to get gas at that time? It seems to me I remember that gas became cheaper, but it was also harder to find, wasn't it?
We had landed, so we had gone to Denver for a ski outing with her brother and some friends, and up in the mountains. Hit while we were on that trip up in Frisco, Colorado, or Breckenridge maybe, and we were staying there. And actually, that was one of the first outbreaks, hot spot up there. And we were in Denver when it hit, and we stayed parked because there was no heading back up.
Well, how long have you been at this place in Port Angeles, your current?
We bought this in December of 2020 and moved in January of 2022. So it's been 2 years, right?
What made you decide to stop going, to come back to a house?
Don was a baby, and he wanted to stop traveling and live in a house and watch his plants grow. And I wanted to keep on traveling. See how that
That's a pretty good summary. And I convinced her to come up to Seattle. We rented a friend's basement for 3 months while we searched for a home and found a place here in Port Angeles. It was about, we'd always come out here to go mushroom hunting and camping, and we liked the area. And it was probably the most affordable place that we knew we liked. We couldn't afford to go back to the Seattle area and buy a house. And we wanted my own property so I could do it. Anyway, that's how we ended up.
We decided the best places they decided to live Montpelier, Vermont, or Port Angeles, Washington. But Vermont had so many ticks that no way we were staying there with 3 dogs.
Yeah, I will throw that warning out. If you are going RV lifestyle and you are going to visit eastern United States forests and that sort of thing, get your skills up with dealing with ticks because they are thick.
Ooh.
And we each got ticks at various points, and thankfully we were able to discover them and get rid of them before they had a chance to poison us with anything foul. But I tell you, that is, we visited some friends that we knew in Colorado, and they lived in Massachusetts. And we were telling them about the ticks. We said, oh, we just can't deal with it. I hate the whole tick thing. What's the point of having beautiful forests if you can't go out and enjoy them? And she said, you were in Colorado. What about rattlesnakes? I said, I take a rattlesnake over a tick anytime. Yeah, ticks. They're awful.
Okay. So have you guys got plans for hitting the road?
No, not really. We've taken some relatively short trips to state campgrounds and things like that. We made one longer trip to Colorado and Arizona to visit family. And we don't have anything in the works except maybe escaping the winter gray. I need to get hit of sun for at least a few weeks. So one way or another, we'll head someplace sunny. I don't know how warm it'll be, but it'll be sunny because I need a dose of that once in a while.
Do you still have the same van or?
We do. We have the second one. It's a 2004 Road Trek, 190 popular. It's 19.5 feet long and fully outfitted with all that good stuff, generator and furnace, propane furnace, and all the things you can jam into a camper.
We're looking for a new one right now, but we don't like the design of any of the new ones.
Yeah. They're not nearly as efficient as these older designs.
You open the back door of the new ones, and the toilet's right there, open to the world.
Oh my.
I'm like, I don't like that.
Yeah, no.
How did you stay connected to the internet?
So we paid extra for our phone service to have more hotspot space. And so we could run a hotspot anywhere we had a signal. And so we used that extensively. It was a bit of trouble when we crossed the border and all that went away. I had to track down cafes or restaurants with hotspots available in them to do stuff. I maintained a blog. It's still going. It's not nearly as interesting as 10 years ago, but at any rate, breakfromwork.com is the blog that I tracked all of the places and people and things we saw.
We need to make sure that's on our site.
Yeah, I mostly did it for my mom so that she could stay in touch because we were only a phone call away, but towards the end, she wasn't quite capable of doing much of that stuff. So my sister kept her.
So what do you think is different about your life now versus when you started this journey? Beyond the fact that you live in a stick-built house now versus a RV van.
It's not as exciting when you wake up in the morning and pick a direction to go. A far cry from waking up in the morning and doing my coffee routine for an hour in the morning and driving my wife crazy. And Gay's engaged with the community much more than I have. She's joined. We're both in the garden club now and do volunteer work locally. She does different things than I do, but I'm still plugged in and making friends, meeting people. I volunteer at the local community college to help out with their ceramics room up there, so I get a chance to keep my hands in play, which is a big favorite thing of mine to do for play. Yeah, it's just different. Focuses are different. They're not about looking for new things that we're going to go find or see. They're more about what to do locally, what the weather looks like, what might be available, enjoy coming up, and then plotting short trips to visit with friends and family back in Seattle and the other side of Mexico. That's my take, Gay.
That says it all.
It's nice going to, when you live in one spot, when you go to church, you see the same people every Sunday. When we were on the road, we'd always stop at church. It was just meeting all the new people over and over again.
It was one of the consistent things we did, though. It gave us a place to park every Saturday night. We would park at a church, and Gay would go to church the following day and learn things about things to do locally as well as meeting the people. It was a really nice addition to our travel, actually, when we were in the van. Had some consistency, added some
Did you make
added connection.
some new friends along the way? Do you have new people in your life from your journeys?
A couple. Wendy, who lives in Toronto, her and her husband. And then our friend Larry Case, he lives like I think in Calgary now. He had a girlfriend down in New Mexico, so we visited him down there and kept in touch with them.
Oh, good.
Yeah, we did have family and friends stops. We had a regular route where we'd see my sisters and mother in Arizona, Gay's brother in Colorado. She's got multiple brothers and sisters in Michigan and Detroit area, so we would stop there. Brother in Minneapolis. So we generally made longer stops to visit with family, and that kind of saved us a little bit of money, and it gave us a chance to also connect a little better because in the past we might see them once every few years.
How many times do you think you went around the country over these years that you?
We spent time in the South on our first time around. Oh, we did get back down one more time, so twice down all the way through Florida. Probably across Texas, we went 3 times, so maybe 3 times all the way around.
Okay.
Otherwise, we tended to keep to the north where most of our family is,
Mhm.
and it's a bit cooler. The heat was really the worst thing to cope with. We got caught in freezing weather a number of times, have to drain all the tanks, drain the fresh water, using bottled water to live in the van. We did that a number of times as well. And the van is so heavy that it worked. And I was driving through 5 inches of snow and it was fine.
Oh, good.
Yeah, which pleased me immensely because it scared me to death initially. And then I drove it. It was great.
One time we were leaving out of Denver and we were going up to Wyoming to get on I-80 and come across west. And it started snowing. It was bad and
blowing
hard. And we stopped and asked this Wyoming guy, does it blow like this all the time? What do you say?
The wind isn't blowing. You're not in Wyoming.
Yeah. Yeah, so bad that we had to pull off on the side of the road, like a exit, and all the semis were lined up. And then here's us.
Yeah, they closed I-80, so there was no going anywhere. We were stuck overnight. And I thought, that's just so ridiculous. And then I got up in the morning and I looked outside and there was a 1/4 inch ice on the blades of grass outside the van. So
it was like crunch.
It was an absolute sheet of ice. And so it was good that they closed it on us because I would have been stupid to drive through it, I'm sure. Yeah.
We started driving in the morning. The first thing we saw was an RV tipped over on the side of the road.
Yeah, and you were stuck with a good group of people. I've always really trusted the truckers on the road.
One of the things about traveling with dogs is a lot of times we'd park at Walmart.
Mm-hmm.
You get out at 3 a.m. in your bathrobe to let the dogs go to the bathroom, and all these truckers are out there. You're like, hey, how you doing? Don didn't have to do that, but I did.
Ah, you had the bathroom duty at.
Yeah, we traded different things.
Yeah.
Any lessons or words of wisdom for somebody who might be thinking about, hey, this sounds good?
I thought it was good.
Carry some tools.
Tools.
So that you can deal with stuff.
Duct tape.
Spare fuses. We had a fuse go out in Sydney, Nova Scotia that wouldn't allow the van from starting. And I didn't have any of those kind of fuses.
So he just took one out of one spot and put it over in another spot.
Well, we could at least keep going. But make sure you've got some spare things that won't keep you from going, for sure. What else? Yeah, if you carry some tape that is, we had some leaks. And I used electrical tape, which sticks, but you can pull off when you want to fix it permanently. If the water's, like we had a gap on the back door, I put a piece of tape across the back door so that the water would not drip down and inside of the frame. Handy stuff to carry. Some kind of rubber type tape for leaks and tools for fixing things. And don't even sweat. Don't even sweat it when things go bad on the van. You get it fixed. And there are places to get them fixed all over the country. I've had repairs done north, south, east, and west.
So plan on that. It sounds like plan on knowing that you'll repairs.
Yeah.
And when you go over to Canada, make sure you don't say you want to stay.
Yeah.
What?
I asked the guy at the border crossing, what do I to do to stay here? You got any paperwork over there? And he said, pull over here. And they tore our van apart top to bottom.
Oh,
Yeah,
you're kidding.
They went through our shoes and everything.
but they let us in. We were clean, so it was okay. Don't mess around with the border patrol on either side. They are not joking around.
No, they're not funny.
They have them.
No sense of humor, really.
No.
Yeah.
That one guy up in Alaska, far up as you could go, and the border crossing, we were coming back into Canada, and they're like, we got to have your eggs.
Took your
Eggs?
Eggs?
They took
I
the
thought it
eggs.
was fruit and vegetables, really.
Well, they took our dog food.
Which we bought in the United States that was made in Canada. And when we came back into the United States, they said, "Oh no, that's made in Canada." But we bought it in the US.
He said, nope.
Doesn't matter.
It was funny. The car next to us, they were taking his firewood away. And I'm
Oh.
like, we had firewood. They didn't take our firewood, but they took our dog food.
Don't you wonder if maybe they were just like shopping?
Yeah.
I admire you guys for doing this dream trip, and also you're still married. That's just amazing.
For now.
Okay, any last words of wisdom or advice you have for listeners?
I would say go for it. You'll relax on the trip. Don't sweat it. I was worried about things all the time, and it was all fine and everything worked. And so my advice would be don't sweat it and go for it, because what a great experience. People, the places, it's amazing how nice so many places in this country are. I had no idea.
Yeah.
All righty.
I'd do it.
Thank you guys so much for sharing this with us and our listeners.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and we'll put the link to your Tumblr blog so people can see way back to 2014. That was how I kept track of you. Occasional call, but I was like, oh, they're here. Oh, they're there. And I'd see great pictures of places and family and friends. It was really a treat. So that's another thing I would suggest people do, is keep track of it with a blog or something, and your family can follow along.
Great idea.
Anyway, that's it for this episode. Thank you, Don and Gay Taylor, for sharing your experience in van life. And we will see you next time. And listening.
Bye.
Bye.